This will be geared towards people going for their CCIE, obviously, and for new members of this meetup. So I'm trusting that, I know at least one of you are. I trust that everyone in this room right now is actively going for their CCIE, or you have serious thoughts about it. Just type in the chat window just to make sure that everything works. Cool. So we know the chat window works in the bottom right hand corner. How many of you attended or watched the new member meetup, the beginners meetup that we had last night? Or you've been to one before? Okay, you didn't miss too much. And yes, it was, unfortunately it got full really fast. The Google Hangouts has a limit of 10 people. And there are other services that have higher limits. So I know AnyMeeting and some others, they have much higher limits. But I purposely used the Google Hangouts because it's a lot more personal. The video seems to be better and the audio seems to be much better. So that's kind of why we are sticking with it. And since I'm recording anyways, it goes up to YouTube. So it's not that big of a loss. So we have a CCIE candidate directory. If you haven't already popped your information on there, I've got a link in this hack pad that you can click on. And what that is, all it's asking for is your name, what track you're going for, so whether it's route switch, whether you've passed your written exam, and if you have scheduled your lab, and kind of like an approximate date of your lab. All it is just so other people can see if you're in the same time zone or close to the same time zone. That way you guys can form smaller study groups if you want, because I'm on the West Coast right here, and I'm going to guess that a lot of you are in different parts of the US and possibly even the world. So how many folks are in the US and how many folks are outside of the US? America, yes. So look at that. You guys are like all East Coasters.
And some of us have been up since 4 a.m. East Coast time.
See, that's not good. You should go to sleep. After this meetup. Or Missouri. Okay. So cool. So pretty nice. I was hoping to get some West Coast people, but oh well. I guess it's too early for them. Who knows? Okay, cool. So yeah, definitely we'll talk about other resources that you can use, but there are other meetup groups that are more geared towards the East Coast. So they will have study sessions that are compatible with your times. And so Chicago...
But we wanted the best.
They're all good. I'm not going to say, they're all good. Hey, anyone who runs a meetup group that has several hundred people, I know what it takes to do one, all the aggravations, and props to them. I mean, they're not getting paid for it, at least I don't think they are. They're doing it for free. So it's all good. It's all good. But yes, we like to think ourselves as one of the better ones, and the reason we're pretty good is two things. We break the meetings into different skill levels. So you guys are going for CCIE. I'm guessing you don't want to be stuck in a class where people don't know about VLANs. It makes for a pretty horrible session when a guy doesn't know how to do VLANs or anything like that. All right, we're back. We had some technical difficulties. I had some technical difficulties. Nothing wrong on your side. Basically, wireless went out, and I had to do this epic thing where I had to make a scope in Windows and change a couple VLANs and mess with it's not the riverbed, but we have a web caching content thing to get me out. So just a wonderful set of things I had to do to get my connection back. But we're back. So what was the last thing you guys heard? Who remembers the last thing I talked about? How we're different than everyone else, or the two ways we're different, something like that? Cursing in the background. Yes, I was definitely doing that.
I heard you from all the way here in DC.
Yeah. The wonderful joys of IT.
We need to get some network guys on this.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember when we started chatting. So that's good. Yes, it was the URL for the CCIE directory. So you guys all got it when you signed up. Please sign up for it. It's not mandatory, but it's nice to know. Nice to see who else in your same time zone is studying for CCIE, because we definitely don't do enough meetups about it. We will, once things get ramped up again, we'll be having them pretty much every week, but you're going to be needing to study every day. So it's going to be a long, hard slog to get this. I know a couple of you have already taken your lab, so you know what it's all about. And yeah, it's good to have people in the same boat as you, so you can share your misery. So just to know that there's someone else studying for the same thing you are. So let's see. Introduction about myself. Let's see. So Scott has a question. Can I add my entry on any? Yeah, just add it. So add it at the end, in the beginning, doesn't matter, and then later I kind of clean it up a bit every couple weeks. So introduction about myself. This meetup has been going on for 4 years. Our CCIE level meetups have been going on for almost a year now. We currently use Gns workbooks for the majority of it. I have purchased Gns stuff, and I've also purchased Narvik stuff and gone to Narvik's boot camp. So I'm kind of agnostic. I will use any material that I've bought. But in this particular meetup, we are INE fans, and the sole reason is that their PDFs are not protected. So we can have a meetup and do their exercises and their mock labs and stuff like that. Narvik stuff is lock lizard protected. So what happens is as soon as you open up Google Hangouts, it blows away the lock lizard and it will shut down. So that's kind of bad, but such is life. I've been studying for CCIE for God knows how many years, a long time ago. Passed the written twice because it expired. Hopefully I'll take my lab at Cisco Live because they have a remote lab that you can take. I'm on the standby list for that. All the sessions are already, they fill up on the first day of sign up, so they go quick. But if anyone drops out, I get to go in there. And going for routing and switching, kind of the most common one. And then hopefully after I get that, make a lot of money, have women by my side, drive fast cars, that type of stuff. So let's get you guys on board. I'm just going to go from left to right on my screen. James, tell us a little bit about yourself and what track you're going through. I know you've taken this at least a couple times.
No, just once.
Just
I've
once?
taken the CCI. I've actually taken the CCI written 4 times, I think, total. One, I actually took the CCI security written. That was mainly just to renew all my certifications. Like I said, CCNP level, I'm a CCNP level, strong CCNP up here. Originally from Texas, recently moved to the DC area. So been coming to talk to Humphrey since early January, I believe it was. And if I can get my act together, I'm going to see if I can start teaching some QoS lessons for you.
Cool,
That would require
actually.
me to actually get some sleep first.
Yeah, QoS is I would say if I had to rank my biggest weak point, QoS would be it.
Well, it's my second biggest, and that's why I want to teach it. Because if I can teach it, I'll know it. Which is the exact reason you're here.
Yep, because I know nothing, and yet I'm teaching all of all these guys. So that's awesome. That's good. Cool. Kenneth. Okay, cool. So Kenneth, he's got his CCNA. He has passed his CCNP route test, switch test. He's working on his T-shoot, and he wants to go towards CCIE. So he says even if he doesn't pass, he'll get more knowledge for that, and that's always good. Probably in this particular meetup, we have a couple dozen people currently on the CCNP track. So you are in good company, and it seems the majority saved that T-shoot test for last. So everyone kind of does the same deal. So okay, that's good. Very awesome. Going to the right, Mark. Cool. So Mark's also going for CCNP, passed his switch test. We'll be doing the route test. So now what's funny is when we first started doing our video meetups back in June of last year, right after Cisco Live, we got a couple guys came in, wanted to do their CCNP, and they just stepped in the CCIE sessions, and they said when they took their CCNP, it was a breeze. When they took their CCNP route, it was like, this thing is so easy because we got beat to hell in the CCIE meetups. It's like, it's not a big deal. When they got to the BGP section, they're like, more, give me more. So it was funny. And that's kind of where I want people to be for CCNA and CCNP. You should be able to step into that test and just laugh at it. Just go, come on, bring it on.
Yeah, if you can even make a reasonable attempt at most of INE's labs, I mean, there's nothing really magic about them. If you can make a reasonable attempt at them, you're going to eat the CCNP for lunch. Of
Exactly.
course, I say that I took my CCNP back in 2001, so, what do I know?
No, no, that's what I tell people, and that's the feedback I've gotten from the 3 or 4 people that have gotten their CCNP after taking our CCIE sessions. They looked at it and they're going, oh, that's it? Because in CCIE, in INE's workbooks, they throw like every problem is a curveball. Like it's it's all jacked up networks, weird stuff. When you take your CCNP test, it's very straightforward. It's basically, we want to run BGP, make this work. There's no real trick to it. It's best practices. So they're like, oh, it was easy. And also for the T-shoot exam, they're like, I flew through that test because, when you do CCIE stuff, especially with INE's workbooks, actually all the workbooks, they definitely make you a lot faster in the config. So CCNP will not be a problem for you after you do a couple of our sessions.
Well, the CCNP, no offense, is can you get it working? The CCIEs, can you get it working our way? And oh, by the way, we're going to surprise you with something else while you're halfway down we're going to go halfway through the test. We're going to throw something else at you that's going to break what you did
Yep.
in step 1.
Yep. Yeah. Another way I like to explain CCIE is that everything you learned in CCNP, how you got things to work, they're not going to let you do it in CCIE. So they're going to exclude commands. They're going to say, oh, so we know you know how to do, let's say, IPNAT inside, right? You've been doing IPNAT inside from the CCNA days. They'll say, do the same thing, get the same result, but you can't use the word inside. And you'll be like, the hell? Yeah. Or they'll say something like, get RIP to work, but don't use the no auto in version 2 command because you've always typed it, right? Your instructor said type no auto version 2 and don't worry about it. Just type it in. Right? And they're going to throw those types of curveballs at you in CCIE and expect you to go, oh, okay. So, and if you're used to like /24s in your network addressing, oh, have fun. CCIE, it's going to be like /29, /27. It's just weird, weird stuff. But, yep, cool. Let's move over to the right. Scott.
Hi, Humphrey. Hi, everyone. I actually heard about this group at a meetup.com group called the Chicago Cisco Systems meetup group, and they told me that there's a group called RouterGods that does these Google meetups where someone will go through the labs live, and that actually inspired me to start my own group as well, a Google community where I teach classes at a CCNP level. But I'm ready to, take it to the next level and hang around CCIE level candidates and go more in depth with the networking topics.
Oh, cool. What's your group called?
We're called the Elite Network Engineers.
Cool. If you shoot me a link to it later after the meetup, I will attach it to our FAQ, and then everyone will be able to see it and join it.
Cool. Thanks.
So that's good. That's good. How often do you do your meetings?
I had my firstborn last week, so we stopped doing that for a while. But it was once every week when I started about a month ago.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, newborns will do that to you. We had Justin is another guy who regularly attends our meetups, but he recently had a kid, like his newest kid, a couple months ago, and he already has 2 or 3. And yeah, that takes that takes the wind out of your sails. And then what's scary is when you're doing Ccie, if you take a month break and you come back, it's bad. It's, yeah, it's amazing how much you forget in a month. And
Oh, I am not looking, let's say, part of me is not looking forward to the first real meetup because I've had some other things on my own that have kept me busy, and I know I'm going to be sitting there and have, well, you're going to be nice. Paul's gonna want to slap me around.
yeah, yeah.
Paul is a great guy. By the way, Paul, you will encounter him. He is a wonderful guy. He's very knowledgeable, help you any way he can, but he's going to give you a good kick up the you know what, and usually I deserve it, so I don't mind.
Yes, and for those you don't know, Paul is another instructor and an assistant organizer for this group, and you will see his meetups come up from time to time. And if you want to join his meetups, you have to add him to your Google Hangout or Google Plus circles. It's paul@lampron.org. So I'll type this in here. So you'll see that in the chat window. Just add him to your Google circles, and then when he does his meetup invite, you will get it. All right, moving over to the right, last but not least, Tony.
Hey guys, I'm Tony Quixote. I just passed my NP back in October, and I'm looking to move on to IE. So I was found this group about I guess a month ago. I was looking for moral support, so I guess I found it. So that's pretty much it. I can sympathize with the newborn. I have a 3-week-old. It's my third. So God bless my wife for hanging out with her while I'm doing this.
Awesome. Well, congratulations and welcome to the group. It's kind of funny. We have a lot of people who, it's kind of weird. They thought that they were happy with CCNP, and then they get a kid, or their second or third, and they go, man, how am I going to pay for all this? So that's when they say, well, if I get my CCIE, we can make that, we can make that happen. So we definitely get that a lot. All right. So I'm going to take a little different course versus yesterday. So yesterday was the new members and beginners. Those guys are going for CCNA. They need a lot more hand-holding than you guys, right? So I'm assuming that you guys going for CCIE, you're a little bit smarter than the average bear. You can pretty much look for stuff yourself, like you're self-sufficient, right? You can generally find answers. You know how to use Google and that type of stuff. Whereas with the people who are just starting, CCNA folks, they don't know what books are good, what resources are out there. So we'll talk a little bit about prerequisite knowledge, but then we'll kind of zoom through the rest, and then we'll spend the majority of time talking about Gns3, relativity drive, how to set all that stuff up. And if we need to, we can actually take an entire meetup in the future, could be next week or the week after, and we'll just take that whole meetup in terms of setting up Gns3 for you guys, so that whenever we do any lab, you have no problems at all. All right. So prerequisite knowledge, nice to have CCNP. If you don't have it or are close, not a big deal. As long as you have like CCNP route level knowledge, I'm happy. It's the times when we do our meetups where a guy comes in with CCNA and they're like, I just want to see if I can hang with you guys and just see if I can keep up. That usually ends up very bad, not just for that guy, but everyone else, because you guys took the time to join this meeting and you don't want a guy to slow you down too horribly. Now, there are times where people crash and burn. I crash and burn a lot. And what I mean by crash and burn is like I start configuring it. It's completely wrong, right? It's not working for us. That's a little different than someone who just doesn't know anything about QoS or anything about BGP. So you should already be pretty decent at Cisco command line configuration. Decent meaning you have a decent typing speed. You know how to use the question mark. You know how to use tab. That shouldn't be too much of a mystery for you. Now, do all of you have access to Cisco gear either at work or at home? Okay, awesome. Is, you know,
Yes to both.
yeah. So that's great. You know, we get people once in a while where they say, I have no work experience, I have no gear, I'm going for CCIE and I'm skipping CCNA and CCNP. Right? We get those, and you can tell. Like, you can tell when they're configuring, and God help the first company that hires them, because it's going to be ugly. Okay, so what happens in these meetup sessions? Well, they are not recorded other than this one. This one is being recorded. It's just my screen right here that you see that's being recorded. I'm not recording any of your faces or the chat window, so you can live in anonymity, you know, for your witness protection program. So they are not recorded. Reason is they tend to go, sometimes they can go long, like 6 hours, 7 hours. In the BGP one, dear God, they go a long time, because there's just, sometimes the workbooks are wrong, and that's when you know you're studying like intensely. That's when you know your stuff, because you're finding mistakes in their workbook. But they tend to go, they can go long, but you know, you don't have to stay for the whole thing. You can just bail out whenever you want. You guys are adults. This one is being recorded, but everything else is not. How are they different than the CCNA and CCNP? Basically, we fire up the topology right away. It will have you know, the 6 routers, 4 switches, and the backbone routers, and we work on a task. And by working on a task, I'll show you. Let me just open up my SkyDrive here. It looks like I got to share that particular part of the screen. Okay, so I keep everything in SkyDrive. It just keeps everything nice and neat across all of my computers. And so what we'll do is, let's say we are on EIGRP. So this is INE's workbook. Hopefully all of you have purchased INE's workbook. If not, we could probably get you a deal from INE. But if you haven't purchased INE's workbook already, you know that you've probably gone to their website, looked around, and buying all the workbooks at once, a little expensive, you know, if you're just starting off. What I recommend, if you are trying to get by with the cheapest amount of money, just start off with buying Lab Volume 1. Because it will take you several months to several years on completing this. And what Lab Volume 1 is, it's a workbook of different technologies separated out. So they have an OSPF section, they have an EIGRP section. This is the EIGRP section. The way it's broken out is these are different problems. So 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, all that good stuff. And then there are the solutions down here. Right? Now, some people, when they first start off, they like to cheat. They go, I'll just go straight to the solutions and do it that way. Yeah, you're really, yeah, that's not a good way of doing things. Right? So we pick one. Let's say it's, usually we do more than one. Per session, we do about 3 to 4, depending on how crazy they are. But let's say we did, let's just start off with 5.1. So here's the physical topology. Here's the, you know, the logical. We'll explain all that later. So the way it's organized is it says load in the initial configs, which you will have, and then it has different subtasks for you. Right? And usually the way INE works is not necessarily on these ones, but if they have 5 tasks, 5 subtasks, 4 of them will be really easy. It'll be like, oh, this I'm doing great, you know, bam, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one will be the one that just kills you. So we do these, and we kind of work on our own. We give ourselves ideas and stuff like that, and then when everyone is finished or everyone cries mommy, then we go down to the solutions and we go, okay, did ours match what they did? 8 out of 10 times ours does match what they wanted, and then 20% of the time we go, oh, ours worked, theirs didn't. You know, what's different? Right? There's multiple ways of doing things. So we do these problems, and as I said, we generally do 3 or 4. Now sometimes what you'll notice is in Eine's workbook, as you go through them, there are sections that say, let's see if I can go to one. Here we go. In 512, remove the previously configured route command. Right? Now here, this is a good example. Erase and reload all devices. So you've done 5 things, and then it says, oh, erase and reload. Those sections or those parts, that's where we sometimes stop at, because if you're going to erase and reload, you might as well start fresh for the next meeting. So that's kind of how things go. We spend a couple sessions per subject. So to get through EIGRP, it may take us 5, 6 sessions, 7 sessions, who knows, right? For us to get through BGP, it takes a long time. BGP is a slog, but you have to do it. To get through QoS, that's a humongous section. Right? And as I said, if you're strapped for money, just get volume 1, because you're going to spend lots of time on this volume. In fact, if you read the success stories on INE, there's been people who pass CCIE just by doing volume 1 over and over and over again. That's it. Some people like doing mock labs. I don't like doing mock labs all the time, because you just practice getting good at the same mock lab. Okay, so that's a good question that Kenneth has. Is it large enough, I'm guessing, is the workbook large enough where you end up forgetting the beginning after you finish? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely yes. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so if we bring up our... So you probably, I don't know if you can actually see this that well, but I'll verbalize it out. So in this particular volume 1, there are 14 sections. Section 1, bridging and switching. Section 2, frame relay, IP routing, RIP, EIGRP, OSPF, BGP, multicasts. Okay, so up to BGP is what most people consider the core. If you screw up your core, everything else breaks, right? So it's basically, if you can't get OSPF to work, just, hairy carry yourself right there. But, if you can't get OSPF to work, nothing else is going to work after that. Going after the core, you got multicast, you got IPv6, QoS, security, system management, IP services, MPLS. So you got 14 sections. And definitely when you get to EIGRP, you'll be scratching your head going, what did I do for frame relay? And then you go back to frame relay, you do that for a couple weeks, and then you go back to BGP or OSPF and like, what did I do for BGP?
But you get better each time.
Yes. So incrementally you will get better. It's just what happens here is, if I draw it out on MS Paint, and every CCIE instructor will say this. So everyone can see my awesome MS Paint here. You learn, you learn, you learn, and you go, oh, I'm getting great. You get this big head, and you go, I'm kicking ass in my CCIE studies. And then, let's see if I can change the width here. And then you do a section that you don't know or you forgot, and then you just get dropped down almost to where you started, but not quite there. Then you study another subject and you get dropped down here. So you're continuously getting hit in the face every time you come back to a subject or you learn a new subject. But what happens eventually, and I'm getting there, what happens eventually is you go back to a section and you go through the first 20 problems and you go, dude, I can do this in 30 minutes. When you can do a section as fast as you can type, then you're like, oh, shit. And what happens is, out of the 14 sections, you'll cross off, you'll be like, OSPF, I got it. Like, if I study any more OSPF, I'll punch a kitten or something like that. But you'll cross one off. You'll go, oh, I'm done with RIP, let's say. Okay, yeah, it's RIP, but I'm done with RIP. So that's 1 out of 14. Couple months later, you go, I've done enough EIGRP to where I don't need to worry about it too much. And eventually, after a year or 2 or 3, you'll go, I think I can take this test. And you'll take a mock lab and you'll get destroyed and you go, okay, maybe I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. Right? So I thought I was pretty badass. I took Narbik's boot camp, which is part of Cisco 360. There's 2 mock labs. Take the first mock lab. Hey, I almost got 80%. Except I screwed up OSPF with the virtual link authentication, but I would have completely passed it if I didn't screw that up. And then the second mock lab, just destroyed. But you go back and you relearn the stuff that you messed up on.
Yeah, you sit there and say, did I show up for this lab?
Yeah, yeah. Well, but the cool thing about his mock lab and his boot camp is that you really need a third person to tell you that you suck. Because if you're just doing these workbooks by yourself, it's too easy to go, yeah, I know it, I got it, But it's another thing to have an official Cisco mock lab tell you exactly where you screwed up on. Like it breaks it down. It says OSPF on your virtual link, you typed this and you should have done this and this is how the pings look. So, you're going to get discouraged while studying for this. I guarantee it. You will get discouraged multiple times, and I think that is Cisco's goal. It's just that they want to see how well you deal with it. Will you come back? And it's just like real life when you work on the job. There's going to be days where things suck, like everything breaks. And it would be so easy just to like throw down your RFID badge, your CAC card. Well, hopefully not your CAC card, but your throw
Gift
down.
card in my case.
Yeah, throw down your badge and just say I'm out of here. But they want people who've been through hell and can do this. So it's a mental game. It's not really. It is a technical problem here, but CCIE is more of a mental game against yourself. So hopefully that answers that question. Yes, you will forget, but you just come back to it and do it again, and then eventually you get it. As an example, for these past 3 weeks, I've done nothing but NAT in these past 3 weeks. All types of weird, crappy NAT, inside, outside, NAT on a stick, double NAT, just everything that you could possibly throw at me in NAT, I've done. And the reason for that is NAT killed me in the mock lab. I just skipped it. I was like, I hate NAT. Eat the 3 points. So, and you can't do that too many times in this lab, so, and expect to pass. Okay, so Kenneth has a couple other questions. Do you think the CCIE will be updated? Yes. And if yes, would you still believe it's worth getting the INE books now? Okay, so the INE books, when you get them, they're updated forever. So, they've been updated 3 or 4 times since I've got them. I got them like 2 years ago because they always have sales. Here's another tip. Never, ever buy INE workbook during the weekday. Never. Wait for the weekend or the holidays because they always have sales. I know this is being recorded, so they'll hate me for it, but wait for the weekend or wait for a holiday, major holiday, and they will have sales where you can get the bundle and they'll throw in like 1 billion tokens. They'll have half price. Christmas time and New Year's are some of their biggest sales. They'll have crazy sales. And if you spend more than a certain amount, you could do a payment plan. That's what I did, like 6 months or something like that. So is it still worth getting the books? Yes, because they will update it automatically, so you can download it.
Well, and I will go one step further. I have attempted the CCI lab. I took the version 2 of the lab. We're now up to version 4, so that tells you how long I've been keeping this on my back burner. But 90% of the knowledge you learn then is still in use. Routing is routing. I mean, they've thrown a lot more QoS in there. MPLS is new. But if they had just 1 or 2, what is that? Okay. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting a ringing in my ear. But if you learn EdgeRP on the next version is not going to be that different.
Yep.
So even if they didn't update it, they would be worthwhile.
Yeah. That ringing was someone was inviting me to a Google Hangout, which is like, don't invite me. You're supposed to join this one. So, okay. So yeah, that's true. And yeah, a lot of people when they start CCIE, they go through the different books they need to buy. One of them is the LAN switching book, which is old as dirt. I forget how old that book is, and people go, oh, should I bother buying this book because it's 10 years, more than 10 years old, right? It's still worth buying that book because it's spanning tree. That thing hasn't changed in God knows how long. So, and it's a great book. So yes, how often do they update it? Okay, so they don't actually send it to you. The way this works is you go to INE's website and you get a login, and you just have to check, once a week or whatever, and you check that page, and it's basically a kind of like a FTP type page where they list the different files, and they'll say like updated so and so, and you look at the date on yours, you look on the date on the website, and go, oh, they have a new one, and it's just a PDF. That's all it is. There's nothing fancy, no copy protection, anything. Just download the PDF, and you're off and running. So they do a good job about that stuff. They don't actually tell you. They don't send you an email or anything that there's a new version. But once a month, check the website, check your member site, and you may see that it's been updated. They update it pretty good every couple months, I would say. Okay, let's see. Do you think the next update will be any different? Okay, so that's Kenneth, another one of Kenneth's question. So most people think that they will update this test or announce the update in June during Cisco Live. Okay, that's the general consensus. This is for the route switch CCIE. When they announce it, it's not going to take effect right away because then you'd have a riot on your hands. Probably don't want to have that at Cisco Live. And they will usually give you several months to still attempt the old version. So usually it's like 6 months until the end of the year. Okay. Now, what will be in the update? There's a lot of talk that frame relay will be killed. There's a lot of talk that RIP will be killed, and they'll put more MPLS, or they'll put more performance-based routing, or OER, whatever they want to call it now. So who knows? Who knows? What they may just keep in frame relay just to screw with people. I've studied for this so long that I love frame relay now. I have Stockholm syndrome, so they throw in frame relay, I get free points. That's the way I look at it.
Hey, just so you know, they were talking about getting rid of frame relay and I think RIP as well, which they did get rid of RIP version 1, going between CCIE 2 to 3. So that's 2 versions back and 7 years, and they still have it.
Yeah.
I mean, they did get rid of IPX, they did get rid of some other things, but as I said, I pulled up my old workbook, which when I first started studying, this is back to almost 10 years ago, when I first started looking at it, and was getting my tail kicked. But a lot of that stuff's still valid. I mean, it doesn't have MPLS, but there's plenty of stuff on there that's useful. Again, even if this was thrown out, I mean, you'll get further in your career too, which is what's happened to me. I've moved up even though I haven't gotten my CCIE.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Ever since I started studying, I've gone from job to job, gone up, made better pay. People know you're studying for CCIE. Haven't gotten it yet. I mean, one day I will. But the whole journey has been rewarding.
This is the only exam I know of that people respect you when you tell them you failed it, even other CCIEs. But and most of the ones, well, all the ones I know that have a CCIE and have really passed it. I say that because I know one that I'm 99% sure is not a CCIE and says he is. But all of them are really quick on their feet. They're really quick troubleshooters, and after you start studying for this, you really understand why. Because to go through when I was at my best, I probably could have passed the CCI lab in 2 to 3 days, and I had 8 hours. So that's my problem, is I'm not fast enough.
Yep, that's a common thing. You'll hear a lot from people who go to the lab is that I could have passed it if I had just a little bit more time. Like, it wasn't hard, it was a fair test, it's just they want you to do all this stuff in very short time.
And I don't know if anyone else has attempted the lab. I think I'm the only one who's attempted it. Granted, it's been a long time. You know, kind of like the story you had said, is I was on it, but I was up at the top of my of my group. There wasn't any real reason to take it, so I wasn't motivated. Well, I've moved up and into a new group, and I now have 2 kids and a wife, so I'm a little more motivated now.
Yeah. Yep.
And I have 1/10 the time what I used to have.
Yeah.
But you know, it is a pass. I mean, I can tell you version 2, and I don't think they've changed it this much. It's a passable test. There is, in not obviously not spoiling any NDA or anything, but the INE stuff. If you can do the INE stuff, I think the real test would be easier, because they're a lot more straightforward. At least that's what I remember. Again, who knows what they are now. But a lot of stuff, they threw curveballs at you, but you know, INE feels like sometimes you're throwing the ball and all of a sudden it hits you in the back of the head. And that's my gripe with INE. But then again, if you can handle what INE throws at you, it's good preparation for the IE lab and for the real world, because you know, who knows when you're going to have some idiot network architect you're working with who says, well, I don't want to use this technology. Well, why not? Well, because back in 1999 we had problems with it. And I am pretty much quoting from an argument I had about a month ago. So
Yep. Yep.
so it's like, okay, here's how we do it. Here's how we do it your way. And he grumbled about it and let me do it.
Yep. So yeah. Okay, we got another question. So Mark is asking, do you need to get a rack, or can I get away with GNS3? Okay, so there's that kind of gets us into gear. So that's actually good. So with gear, some people get, I would say 50% of the folks out there have a real rack. You know, they get the 6 to 9 routers, the 4 switches, you know, a combination of the 3550s and the 3560s, and they go that way. You know, they go full bore, terminal server into it, remote power, APC. You know, now the problem with this is that's great if you're going to use it. I went the same route. I used it once, maybe twice, and then I said, "This is a pain in the ass." Right? That's when I went full GNS. So what I do, you don't have to spoil what I do, but what I do is I run everything inside of Gns3, inside of Linux VMware. I carry a powerful computer around. I can lab anytime, any section of, well, almost any section of INE's workbook. I can go straight to a task, and I can start labbing in basically 2 minutes. Now, you've probably heard that GNS3 does not do switches very well. It does do some switching. So what some people do is they break out of GNS3, they get a bunch of USB NICs, or they get a quad NIC, or they build this crazy Frankenstein computer that connects to real switches. So we call that a Frankenstein or hybrid setup, like a hybrid rack. So your switches are real, and then your routers are fake. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Another way is you use GNS3 for 90% of your study, and then when you get towards the end, you rent a rack for your switches and QoS. You could do it that way.
And this James again, I had a lab which I've slowly found deals, cast off equipment, everything, and if I was just starting today, I would definitely start out with GNS3, and if you can get your hands on a real switch just to play with, even for the CCNP level 1 or 2 switches, that's fine, and start that way. And some would disagree with Humphrey on powerful computer. I'm sitting here with a 12-inch netbook, and it's got an AMD E350 processor, and under Linux it runs it just fine. Now what it doesn't do is it can't run Google Hangouts and that and GNS3. But start out there. If you hit a point where you think I need a lab, and you've got enough benefit, you've got everything you can out of GNS3, get a lab. If you want to rent racks, rent racks. Or, like I said, a hybrid of it is start collecting equipment if you find it really, really cheap, cast-offs, whatever, and, go from there. But again, I would say GNS3 is great if, I need to get myself into it a little more and I have a long bus commute and I ought to be I'm listening to videos, but I ought to be doing labs then.
Yeah, GNS3 has probably helped a hell of a lot of people get CCIE, and being able to go straight to a topology and straight to a certain technology like OSPF stub networks. Let's say you're having problems with that, you could just hit OSPF stub networks for continuously. I kind of talk about it as if so I have a pilot's license. I'm a flight instructor, ground instructor. So we have simulators for Cessnas and Pipers and all these things. And in certain instances, the simulator is much more effective in teaching someone than a real plane. Because let's say this guy is having problems with one of the things they do is turns around a point, which you take the plane and you fly around like a imaginary spot on the ground. So if you do it in a regular plane, what do you have to do? You have to get in the plane, you have to check it, you have to fly up there, you have to take 5 minutes to fly to your practice area, then do turns around the point, then your instructor tells you what you have to do or correct it, and then you fly back, right? So to practice that 2 minutes worth of stuff it's going to take you 30 minutes of total time. Whereas if you were in a simulator, guess what? Hit the start button and you're off in the air already and you're doing your stuff, right? So this is where GNS3 comes into play, because you can basically hit the start button, the IP addresses are already in there, OSPF is already started, you just need to configure the stub on whatever router that needs it. Right? So that's where GNS3 can kick ass. Your real rack, unless you leave it on all the time, which is going to kill you on the electricity, and your wife probably is not going to like it, but I'm going to guess if you're going for CCIE, you don't really care what your wife thinks. Or maybe you make believe that you care what she thinks.
Or you have, in my case, you have a very, very supportive wife.
Then if you have a supportive wife, awesome, right? Now, yeah, but GNS3, man, you just start it up, suspend it, you do all types of tricks with it.
And by the way, idlemax, I saw the comment, idlemax 100. There is a little bit of work to get rid of it, but because if I boot up a CCI lab cold, the first time I boot up on a topology, the machine just crawls. I go in there and do a little bit of tuning, and I mean my machine runs at 50%, and it's, again, I'm talking about a 2-year-old high-end netbook, not a thin and light. A netbook is what I've got. So of course I did stuff an SSD and 8 gig of RAM in it, but it's a 2.5-pound machine and it's running 13, 14 routers.
Yeah, when they can get GNS3 running on an iPad, that will be cool. Okay, then we have another option. Complete rack rentals. Don't even do GNS3, don't even buy gear, just do all rack rentals. Some people have done that. I could see that is getting kind of, maybe not as convenient, because you have to kind of schedule your times around other people. But it's been done.
Well, and to me, again, the beauty of GNS3 is I don't have to have an internet connection.
Yeah. Yep.
But yes, I will say GNS3 is great. There is no substitution at the end of the day for at least having some hands-on time with real gear. So I'd be nervous about the guy who was a CCIE who had never touched real gear. Haven't met one yet, but...
Yeah. And you guys don't have a problem because you have access to gear at work and at home. So, this is more directed towards people who want to skip CCNA and CCNP and go all the way to CCIE, right? Without touching any real gear or cables.
I use that as an example of the CCNA is climbing up the little Chuck E. Cheese, fake mountain climbing thing, and the CCNP is going to the health club doing the 3-story version of that. CCIE written is you've bought a ticket, now you can go to the Himalayas, and CCIE is you're climbing Mount Everest. Well, if you're a climber, which I'm not, I'm afraid of heights, but if you're a climber, you're not it's theoretically possible you'll survive that climb to Everest, but not many people can do that nowadays. The whole reason it was done was because originally the CCIE came out before anything else. So they said, well, for the really experienced people, why should they have to take all these other tests? So.
Yep, yep. Okay, let's blaze through these next sections. Actually, any questions about the gear and how we run our meetups? Give you a minute to...
Actually, one thing to follow up on Mark's question, in one of your meetups, I suspect you have you discussed how to solve that idle max 100 problem?
The idle max 100, actually the new Gns3 has like a auto idle PC idle max configuration. So was it RC3, RC4, something like that. So also we have one of the developers for Gns3 in our actual meetup group, so I can ask him. Okay, so Scott has a comment. He has purchased Ine CCIE recommended rack for their labs. Did I waste money if they're going to change the CCIE version in the future? No. Most of it's going to be the same, I would think. And even if they do change it, okay, you already bought the gear, so it's kind of too late to cry about it. But most of the technology is going to be the same. Even if they completely change out the stuff and they completely change out the workbook, your current workbook that you study now is going to get you 70% of the way there. Then just download the new workbook and, maybe pay $50 for some tokens and rack rental tokens and go from there.
And hey, I've got gear in here that's 10 years old. I'm still using it. Granted, it's not the frontline gear, but it works.
Yep.
And I can do most of the stuff on there.
Yep. Also, because we have so many members, what happens is we get coast to coast, cross coast rack rentals. So a person on the East Coast will leave his rack on during the night while someone on the West Coast remotes into it, and then they just flip. So there's enough people in our group to where if you're looking for a rack rental, you could just ask me or post to the mailing list, or ask other CCIE candidates during a CCIE meetup. Hey, I'm on the East Coast. Can I trade rack time with someone on the West Coast? And it will probably be a different setup, but that's good because you don't want to get used to your own setup. Because in the CCIE lab, they'll just throw whatever at you.
Yeah, that's probably only one downside. Well, of any of the labs is if you study all the time on one lab, you start to memorize the IP addresses.
Yeah, and I found in Narbik's boot camp that killed me because I was on router 1, and my hands were just typing in IP addresses. Nothing worked. Then I show IP interface brief. I look back and it's like, and then I looked at the diagram and it's like, what the hell? I was looking at the diagram. I was looking at that IP, but my fingers typed in 10.1.1.1, or they typed in 1.1.1.1 for the loopback because it's muscle memory. Or I hated this one lab. We're all used to typing like .2 for router 2 or .3 for router 3. In this one lab, they had router 6, and the router 6 was like .7. And I missed it because my fingers just went bam. And, obviously wouldn't ping. But you look back at the diagram, you're like, is this diagram right? I was like, yep, it's correct. Because all diagrams in this lab are correct. Just assume it's correct. So they could be completely evil like that.
Well, and again, if you do get the CCIE, it would be embarrassing if you can't connect. If you can't do a simple ping between two Ethernet between two Ethernet routers.
Yeah, but
because you can't read a diagram. That would be kind of embarrassing to Cisco.
Yep. Okay, workbook vendors. There are 3 major ones and lots of smaller ones. Internetwork Expert, which I talked about. Micronics, which is Narbik, and IP Expert. All 3 of them, you'll pass with any of the 3. We all have our favorites. I start with Ine. I went to Narbik. I still like Ine. Micronics tends to start a little bit low and then go up high. Internet Network Expert just hits you with a hammer right away. IP Expert, I can't really comment because I've actually never seen their workbooks, but I'm sure it's fine. And the instructors for Internet Network Expert and IP Expert seem to float in between each other. So really, it's it's the same guys for the most part. So Workbook Vendors, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. Yeah, I picked INE just because they had a sale that week. It was 3 or 4 years ago. It was New Year's Eve. I was at home. I was pissed off that I was at home and not in like Dubai or something like that. And I said, you know what? Let's get my CCIE so I can be surrounded by women and cars. And I started going on different vendors. And I looked at Narbik's website, and okay, Micronic's website's not that great. He didn't have a special. IP Expert, I can't remember if they had a special or not. I went to INE's website, and they had like a big ass, we have a sale, and I plunked down for it. So that's the reason I went with them first. It's a good choice. Boot camps, I highly recommend you guys go to a boot camp towards the end of your studies. Whether it be INE, whether it be Narbik, whether it be IP Expert, I like Narbik's bootcamp just because I was kind of sick of hearing Brian McGahan's voice in the video tutorials. I was kind of sick of INE's stuff because I've been looking at it so much, and I picked Narbik, and that was a very good investment. So Kenneth is asking 5-day versus 12-day. Whatever one you can afford. I took the 5-day just because I couldn't get 2 weeks in a row off, but I will be upgrading. All you have to do to upgrade is pay the difference, which is $1,500, and he lets you come back. He lets you repeat the boot camp as many times as you want, so you can go back 3-4 times. In my boot camp, I think about 6 people. That was like their second or third time. They just do it over and over and over again. And there's also a CCIE in the room, because he was like, I want to like refresh. Was there a question?
No, I just had this thought. Please, mister, may I have some more?
Yeah.
After you get spanked the first time.
Yep.
But that's what you need. I'd rather get and I got my tail beaten in a boot camp years ago, and I learned a lot. But at the time I learned I wasn't near CCA level.
Yep.
But I would say it jumped me ahead when I took it. It jumped me ahead a year in my knowledge.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think you said 6 months probably, which tells me you're a lot closer than I was.
Yeah. I went in there with the big head. We all introduced ourselves, and it's like network engineer for here, network engineer for here, and I'm like, my name's Humphrey Cheung. I run RouterGods. I run a meetup group. I do YouTube videos. I'm like, oh, I'm badass. And then it's like, nope, you're not. Get killed in a mock lab. But I needed that. It much better to be killed in there than in the real lab.
Or worse yet, the real world.
Yeah, exactly.
Which none of us have ever gotten spanked by a piece of Cisco equipment.
No, of course not. Never happens. Okay, so boot camps, take them towards the end of your studies. Because if you take one at the beginning, like a couple people in the boot camp, so there were several people, there were several people in my boot camp. They were just starting their CCIE. They hadn't even gone through the beginning workbooks. It's like, I'm just going to get the boot camp right off. And I think by the second day, they were just like, well, what do I do?
I think how long did it take you to hit that point?
I think
Thursday.
No, I was gone Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday, I was like, man, this is nuts. So.
And not to scare people, but.
Yeah, but yeah, Narbik is a completely different beast because he can write down all the configs and stuff like that. So, now, what's cool about the boot camps that may cause you to rethink your strategy to take it earlier than the end. At least to my knowledge, every boot camp that you attend, you will get workbooks as part of that boot camp. So these boot camps cost $3,000 and up. Narbik is $3,000. Internet Network Expert is what, $50 billion. It's not that much, but it's more expensive. But all of these boot camps, when you attend them, you get workbooks as part of the boot camp. And so you get these workbooks before, so you can pay for your boot camp and schedule it 8 months down the line. Just say, I'm going to be going to the one in November. Just give me the workbooks now so I can practice. And Narvik does that. He sends you the PDFs, so that's not a problem. Internet Work Expert, I'm sure you could get them. Well, their PDFs is also, so not a problem in doing that. I think IP Expert, the way they do it is they give you a hard drive, or you can request a hard drive, and you get all the crap on the hard drive, which I think is a pretty neat way of doing it. So, boot camps, great thing. Not necessary, but most of the people I know who have passed that I've talked to at Cisco Live, they took a boot camp. So that's kind of the way things go.
And if it's any extra consideration, I talked to was interviewing with a senior engineer at Cisco, who was CCI like number 5,000 and something. So he definitely knew his stuff. He said as of recently, he doesn't know any of his engineers who, out of his 40 engineers plus he had, that haven't taken a boot camp. And this is the company that makes the equipment, and they all of his CCIEs, I think he said he had like 20 CCIEs in his group, 15 to 20, and had others over the years. He said all of them in recent years, and for him recent was like 10.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he said he hears about it, they don't take it, and he knew the same 3.
Yep. Actually, in our boot camp, we had a Cisco employee, and she was like, "Wow!" So that's pretty cool when you have a Cisco employee. And there's been, Narvik said, there's been boot camps where Cisco TAC guys were in there. So, if Cisco employees are taking it, hey, it must be good.
He basically told me, if you're going for a CCI, I will be sending you to a boot camp.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Didn't get the job, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, Cisco Live is coming up. You can consider Cisco Live as sort of a boot camp because they have walk-in self-paced labs where you just walk up to a computer and it's running a OSPF lab, CCI level OSPF lab, MPLS, BGP, EIGRP. And so what I do is I stay there. I just plant myself in there as soon as the convention opens, and I'm doing labs. And there's a CCIE instructor there, and he'll be giving you tips and stuff like that. So I consider that a cheap boot camp that you get to mingle and go to parties and get drunk at. So that's also kind of like boot camp light. Also, boot camps are great to go to because you get to network with other people. You get to talk to them. And so in my class, we formed our own study group just with Narvik stuff. Okay, so Paul has a question. How's Cisco Live, and when should we go? All the days, some of the days, however many days you can afford. Now, the first day, the convention hall does not open until later, and that's where the walk-in labs are. So you don't necessarily need to go to the first day, but might be good because a lot of the parties are on the first day. I think INE tries to schedule their party for the first night. So if you get in like a late afternoon on the first night or first day, I think that's fine. Some people like going early because they like picking up their badge and stuff like that really early. We don't have a RouterGods gathering plan, but if there's enough people going, we can meet up somewhere. So this year Cisco Live is in late June, mid-ish late June, June 20th or something like that, 20-something, in Orlando. So if you can make your way down there, it'll be fun. And you don't need full badge to have access to the lab. You can have the freebie badge, the exhibitor only pass. They may give you some grief. If the labs are full, they may give you some grief and say, okay, we only want the paid people in to give them a chance. But after the first couple hours, it was basically, I'm here and you are not moving me out of that spot. I'm just doing labs. Okay, resources. The good mailing list is group study. That's where all the major vendors are there, and everyone studying for CCIE is there. It gets lively at times. It gets lively all the time, and you'll see questions on there where you make, I'm studying for CCIE and I'm trying to do this, and you look at that and go, dude, a CCNA should be able to do that. Or like someone will say, I just passed and I used this brain dump, and then it's just all hell breaks loose. Forums, there's lots of different forums you can go. You can go into the INE's forum. Tech exams. How many of you have a tech exam account, or you know what tech exams is? I guess I could show you. Yeah, if you just Google tech exams, you'll see that, make an account there. Those have pretty good forums. And of course, Cisco Learning Network. That's a somewhat, it's not that great, but yeah, Scott Morris is there. Keith Barker's there. A couple of other guys are there as well. RouterGods.com resources. We've got our topologies on there. Let me share that screen. Hold on. Oh, don't need to. Okay, RouterGods.com. We have the videos under Watch. You guys know all about that. Under Resources is the Gns3 Topologies. When you go there, you'll be going down here, and this is the unified INE configs for all of the workbooks. Well, one and two. Download those. Basically go through all these links. We've got the layer 3 topology as the PDF. And what this gives you is these are the .NET files that will open up. They'll automatically load in the configs. And sometimes you have to do the VLANs, but they get you up and running very quick. And this is done for all of the tasks inside of the INE workbook. My username on Tech Exams is RouterGods. I made it simple. I don't want to have to remember too many things. So, and I think what we'll do is we will have a separate meetup on doing this stuff. So you don't need to worry about this too much. Gns3 setup. Okay, so how many of you are Windows guys? So I just want to get a sense of the different operating systems that we deal with. Any Mac people? Okay, Windows and Linux, so that's good. Mac and Linux, okay. So my suggestion with Gns3 is try to run it in Linux. Really try to run it in Linux because it just seems to work much better inside of Linux. If Windows is if you're only on Windows, then if you have enough RAM, load in VMware, pop Linux inside of there, and do it that way. Okay, we already talked a little bit about relativity drive, what it does. What does it contain? Let me actually show you what's inside of the relativity drive stuff. So let's say you click on that link, download. And I've got my download manager going. Okay, and just hang on just a sec. Okay, going to share out my different window here. Make sure I close out all the midget porn. Okay, can everyone see my screen somewhat okay? The type may be a little bit small, so let me... But if you can't see it, no biggie. It's a zip file. It's about 5.1 megs. So you simply unzip it. and you'll get a folder, and the folder is divided up into configs for Linux and Macs, Windows, and then there's a folder for drawings and stuff, the topology. And we also have a folder for troubleshooting docs. So simply, if you're on a Mac or a Linux machine, drag that folder to your desktop or wherever. If you're on a Windows machine, drag that to your desktop. The only difference really between the Linux and Mac and the Windows guys is the configs. If you know from playing around with Linux and Windows, the way they do their directory structure is different. So in Windows, it's like C:/ something something, that's the file path. In Linux, it's /home/ whatever, and the slashes are in different directions. Right? So that's just the difference. 99% of it's the same, but I just had to redo it for the quirks of that particular operating system. So let's say we go into Windows. We've got 2 sections here. I'm going to change it to extra large tiles. Look at that. It's probably still too small, but in the recording you'll be able to see it very, very well. Workbook 1, Workbook 2, and troubleshooting. So depending on what section you're working on, you double click there, Workbook 1. And then we have the .NET files for all the different sections. So when they say load in initial BGP configs, you double click on initial BGP configs, initial BGP. And it's going to load in it's going to look inside the particular folder, and these are the configs for the routers that it's going to load in. So I need to share another screen. All right, so all this crapola, it's going to paste in, or it's all automatically going to fire it up inside of Gns3. You just have to click play and console into it, and you're off and running. All right, so that's Relativity Drive. It's an adaptive .NET file, adapted Gns3 file that runs INE's stuff. There are a couple interfaces that are a little bit different, but for the most part, it works just fine. So we will definitely have another meetup session just to do the Relativity Drive setup. But if you want kind of a head start on it, you can go to our YouTube channel. We got a couple, at least like 3 or 4 videos on Relativity Drive and how to use it. It shouldn't be that tough. Okay, it looks like William has a question. Oh, the poster in my background, this is Panda Propaganda. It's their motivational posters that they have back here. Okay, I think that's it. That's all I have in this hackpad for my stuff. Any questions that you guys have, any general questions about how we run our meetups, gear, workbook vendors, bootcamp? I know I think one person wanted a little bit more details about the bootcamp I took. I can certainly answer that. I wrote a big, humongous review about it, but if you have more questions other than that, I'd be happy to answer them. So I haven't scheduled any future meetups yet. I just wanted to get past this week. So I will be doing meetups. I will schedule a meetup for next week, and the week after we'll be doing the Relativity Drive setup. That way everyone starts off on the same foot. Yeah, Narbik, N-A-R-B-I-K. Yeah, actually a lot of people call him Norbik. Yeah, the review is on RouterGods.com. So if you go to it's the front page. It's like click on review and it's 3,000 billion words or whatever it is, pictures and stuff like that. So I paid full price, so I did not ask for a discount. I did not want a discount because that would ruin whatever review. It would possibly bias the review. So I requested to pay full price and took it, and I got my money's worth, definitely. And he feeds you, and he feeds you a lot. But one of the tricks I used is the boot camp starts at 9 in the morning every day and goes until 10 or 11 p.m. So he lectures straight on. Like there's a little break for lunch, but man, it's just all lecture. So what we did for lunch is we figured out, I actually got this tip from a former boot camp attendee. There's a Subway across the street. You buy a foot-long Subway sandwich. You eat 6 inches of it. You eat half of it for lunch. You save half of it for dinner because he keeps lecturing. He doesn't stop for dinner. So while he's lecturing, just eat the other half. And that way you don't miss anything. And so after the lecture stops at like 10, 11 o'clock. You get homework. So you go back to your hotel and you lab until like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. On the Thursday night is hell night. That's when he lectures till 11 and you get a full mock lab after that. So it goes until 5, 6 in the morning. That's the one where I died at, and the only reason I died there was that I got tired. It was 3 in the morning. I got tired after BGP or MPLS, I forget. Like I couldn't even remember anything. And mentally I gave up. I basically said, I'm done. Now, if I wasn't tired, if I was on my game, then I would have, I would have gotten a few more points. But that's what happened to most people. They're like, I can do this, but I just gave up. Just mentally gave up. Oh, there's a coffee machine in there. There's coffee. He brings in donuts. He brings in sugar. You get all the bottled water you can drink. He is. There is no shortage of food when you take that boot camp.
Of course, by about Thursday, you don't need the coffee machine. You can just eat the coffee straight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You just inject it. I bought the 5-hour energy drink, the Costco. Well, the Costco's version, and I was just pounding that stuff like crazy. So, yeah. Journalistic ethics. Well, I used to be a journalist, so I kind of know that you got to put that that little disclaimer saying, I paid full price, or else everyone's going to think, oh, you got it for free. Any other questions? Yep, go ahead, Mark. What version of INE am I using? The latest one, I believe it's 4 or 5. They stopped doing the actual version numbers because it was getting confusing. Because their version was one ahead of the real version of the test. So everyone was saying, do you have the manual for version 3 of the lab? It's like, yes, our manual is for version 3, but on your manual it says version 4. So now I think they've kind of gone away from that and said this manual has been updated on this date. So May 1st, 2000 whatever. So when you buy INE stuff and you download it, you're getting the latest version. How much are they charging for Workbook 1?
$200.
That's not bad.
$199.
That's not bad at all.
It's like $200 each, or well, $199 or something like that. And if you buy all 4, it's $500 or $600. So
yeah.
It's like you can buy 3 get 1 free.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm
Yeah.
having enough fun with Workbook 1.
I'm sure they probably have a Memorial Day sale coming up. As I said, never buy INE stuff on a weekday. Wait for the weekend because you know you're gonna be kicking yourself if you pay full price and then the weekend rolls around they have like a 50% off sale or whatever. But yeah, I paid significantly more because I bought mine 3 years. I'm not, well, I am slightly mad about it, but you know what can you do? That's just the way things go. But I think I paid like 3,500, 4,000 or something several years ago, and that was the sale price. So do they have more sales every weekend? Not every weekend, but you know they have. I think it's fairly often, but definitely every major holiday they have a sale. Sometimes they have a sale just for the hell of it. Like I get, if you're on their email list, they'll have a 3 hour sale. You know, 50% off in the next 3 hours. If you subscribe to their Twitter feed, I know they like to announce it. If you subscribe to their Facebook page, they announce things there as well. So on the marketing side, INE definitely is number one. Yeah. And Narvik will do the same thing. Narvik, if you send an email to sales at micronics.net or .com, his wife reads all the emails. If you say, "Hey, I'm looking into workbook vendors. I know that INE wants to charge me this. How much would you charge me?" Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I pulled up my old desktop wallpaper. Well, this is the old wallpaper on my old tablet. I don't know if anyone wants to click on it. You might get a kick out of it. It's about CCIE training. It's a little cartoon I modded years ago.
Let's take a
This
look.
is my motivational.
Nice. Yeah, the Rubik's Cube while in the wind tunnel in the shower.
No, yeah. Well, while submerged in a sealed container of water.
Yeah, yeah.
Now the CCIE has gotten a little harder now. I think you get a blindfold added.
Yeah. Everyone says how and, the CCIE test is obviously very tough, but it's doable. And
Yeah, I've failed it. I'll tell you, it's passable.
yeah. And the thing that really did it for me, that really instilled that I can pass it, because you see other people pass it, but there needs to be a point where you say I can pass it, and that happened last year at Cisco Live. At Cisco Live, the night before or 2 nights before, there's a meeting of CCIE candidates. It's an unofficial meeting. You learn it through group study and other places. But it's basically people are studying for CCIE and they want to go to a bar and eat and stuff like that. And there were 4 people at my table. Well, myself and 3 other guys. All three, well, one of them had just passed his CCIE lab at Cisco Live, and that was his 8th or 9th time. Mike Marvell. And then the other 2 were going for their CCIE, and I think one of them had already failed like 1 or 2 times. Since Cisco Live, the other 2 have passed. I have not. So I'm like lagging in the group. But while I was eating with them, I'm talking with them, and they're talking about their background and stuff like that and how they study. I'm like, they're no different than I am. They're not doing anything special from me. They didn't have more study time. They didn't have better equipment. We all have the same equipment. We're kind of on the same mental level. So there is no magic bullet. They're the same as me. And if they can pass, then I can pass. And if that guy can pass in 8 tries, I hopefully can pass in 1 or 2. Hopefully. But there. Does this guy not eat the same food? Does he not drink the same water? Yeah. There's nothing special. It's not drinking like superfood or whatever. And I think that was the main motivator. The one thing that really kicked me into gear is going to Cisco Live and just seeing that. I was like, dude, there's nothing different about this guy. It could even be like this guy's dumb as a rock and he got his CCIE, so I should be able to do it too. Or I'm just Asian. Yes. They were all white. Everyone at my table were Caucasians. Whiter than white. from Kentucky or Alabama, or I don't know, one of those places. I wasn't thinking that, if he's white, I'm Asian, I should be able to do this. But all right, any other questions before we get completely politically incorrect, more than we are so already?
Too late.
Yeah. Yeah, if you get your CCIE before me, Paul, we'll be pissed. But I'm sure you're gonna sign on to the meetup, and you're gonna share your camera. You're gonna just put it there for like 10 minutes, and you're going to play some weird, wacky song in the background. But everyone who passes CCIE, yeah, we'll do Cafe Lou. Everyone who passes CCIE, I fully expect you to come in the meetup in one of our, just surprise me and go into like a meetup where they're learning BGP or whatever. Come in, yell out your number, and say, fuck you guys, and then just drop out or something like that. Okay, when's the next meetup? I haven't scheduled it yet, but it'll probably be something like next Wednesday. And we're gonna have Gns3 open. I'm gonna walk you through installing Relativity Drive, and we're gonna fire up one of the Relativity Drive labs just to make sure it works. Yeah, so from the attendees out there, what times are you guys available? What times are good for you to study and go on Google Hangouts? And what days as well? So Central Time, yeah. Like, do you guys prefer weeknights? Do you guys prefer weekends?
Weeknights are fine for me, although this gets a little bit late for me because I'm Eastern time. I just told my boss that I'm going to be in late tomorrow. He's reasonably cool about it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but then again, he needs something. Like today, I started at 6 a.m. in the morning, and I basically stopped about 30 minutes ago.
Good. Well,
so
it's a long day.
And tomorrow's going to be just like it.
Yep. Okay. So on your availability, if you can put in that CCIE directory that we have, the candidate directory, just make another column. Just put on the side what days you like to study, and we'll go from there. Yep. And so what our game plan is we will go through Workbook 1, we'll trudge through it, and after we do that, we're going to start doing some Workbook 2 mock labs, and then see how that goes.
That link? I'm sorry, could you repost that link in the bit.ly link you had? I can't.
For which one?
The CCIE directory.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could do that. See if I can find it. Whoa. Private email. You guys saw my email. I love bit.ly. Okay, so we have a couple more questions. Let's see what we got. Should we watch any of the INE videos prior to doing the section of the workbook? Yes, absolutely. Heck yeah. When you're starting off, you'll be watching a lot of those videos. You'll be clicking through. You'll be jumping around. You'll be like, oh, I like this. I like this. Oh yeah, let me go to MPLS, and you'll watch that. And yes, if you're doing BGP, good idea to watch BGP before you do it, and during you do the problems. You will find that the videos track almost directly to each task. So if they have a task on doing EIGRP stub, they will have a video doing EIGRP stub. And the routers they work on in the video are the routers that you work on in the workbook. I kind of figured this out a little bit late. I was like, duh, it's kind of random. But then I was like, wait a minute, they're doing the exact same thing. they're basically doing the problems in the workbook for you. So that's kind of how it works. So yeah, definitely watch them before. Now, another thing you will notice is towards the end of your studies, your video watching will taper off, because you can be more effective studying reading PDFs. You'll be a lot faster, and you'll just be sick of their voice. You'll be able to quote verbatim the video, and that's when you know it's like, okay, I've watched this a little bit too much. So members.ine.com is the main page to be on the email subscribers that sales will be announced. So they announce it on their website. They announce it if you subscribe to their email list. They announce it on Facebook, and they announce it on Twitter. So those 4 things. So if you check out their webpage every day or every other day, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. You're not going to miss a sale. And even if you do miss a sale, if you miss a sale by a couple days, just email them and say, hey, I missed your sale, but can I get the deal? You'll be fine. Like, there was one guy who bought it one day before the sale, and he just called him and said, please, give me the cheaper price, and he got it. Or he actually got refunded the difference. Okay.
Well, they want happy customers because you keep coming back.
Yeah. You're going to buy tokens. You're going to buy so let's say you get the CCIE route switch package. They know that you're probably going to buy more rack rental tokens in the future. They know that when you pass your CCIE routing and switching, that you probably buy the service provider or the security one or data center. You're going to go for other CCIE tracks. So that's kind of how they get you in. So William's asking, does the blueprint track to the videos? Yeah, for the most part. Now, as you get towards the end, you're going to be concentrating on IP services a lot, because what I'm hearing, and hopefully I'm not breaking NDA, but what I'm hearing from a lot of people is if you kind of gloss over IP services and go, it's just whatever, you will die in the test. So a lot of your points now are coming from IP services versus core.
And again, I will say I took the very old exam, which is now 2 revisions back. It was not a big part then, but I've heard similar things. Is that they already assume you know how to. Well, in the early days, they made you cable and IP and everything. At this point, they already assume you know how to. If you're there, you know how to put an IP on a router, and you know how to do the routing and switching. So that they've got to hammer you on something, and IP services is a nice broad topic.
Yep. So imagine that they're pulling these questions from Cisco TAC, right? So configuring SNMP version 3 in such a wacky way, that's something that someone would call TAC for, possibly, if you don't do a lot of SNMP, right? NAT, almost guaranteed you're going to get a wacky NAT question in there. NTP, NTP is easy, but they'll make it interesting. They'll make you want to hit an NTP server, and you'll have to do some funky tunneling to get to it. Something like that.
Or they'll make you hit an NTP server or something. It may not be NTP, and you've got to hit it, but then you have an access list between you and your target. Of course, you can't test it.
Yep.
So you've got to actually watch your ACLs.
Yeah.
Advice I was given by someone who recently, when I say recently, passed the CCA a couple of years ago, was he said there are certain questions. He said and he said the ACL questions often are one of them, is that you just look at them and say that 3 points isn't worth it because I'll lose 50 if I'm not careful.
Yep. And
whether you take that advice or not, it's good to it's a good warning.
And that's how I died in my mock lab. Is that whoa? So let me show you something. Okay, I don't know if that's picking up. Do you guys see a red pen on my screen? It should be blank with a red pen. Oh, I'll do it with Notepad, or not Notepad, but wonderful MS Paint. Okay.
Well, by the way, Mr. Reddy asked a question. Said, yes, you announced the topic and usually tell us where we're going to start.
Yeah. So let me share awesome MS Paint here. Okay, so this is done. This was explained in Narbik's class. When you go to the lab, you can ask for sheets of paper, right? So you're going to draw out your routers and switches, right? I'm just doing some, yeah, whatever, right? It's going to be a lot more than this, but just for illustration purposes, something like that. Okay, so draw out your things, router 1, router 2, all that stuff. As you're going through the lab, you'll be configuring different things. You get to the EIGRP section. You have to run EIGRP between these 2 points. You're going to put an E there. Here, you're going to put an O because let's say you're running OSPF. Why do you do this? Well, you're thinking, of course I'm going to remember what E and O is. Well, guess what? After lunch, you're not going to remember anything. 30 minutes later, you're going to be doing stuff down here, and you're going to come back here and go, duh, like, I forgot what I did up here, right? And you really see this when you take a mock lab. Like, before you're like, of course I'm going to remember everything. No, you're not going to remember what protocol. You're not going to remember IP addresses. So you're going to need to have this sheet of paper, and you're going to look at it and go, oh, I remember. I put EIGRP there. Then what happens is you get to the security section, and you put an ACL somewhere. Well, you put an ACL here. What direction did you do the ACL? It was inbound. Then you're going to get to, let's say, NTP, and you're going to put an NTP on this loopback. So what would happen if you forgot, if you didn't put this ACL text up there? You're going to configure the NTP. You're going to test it on router 1, and you go, yeah, I can hit that NTP, not a problem. And let's say you say, oh, that's enough. I don't need to test it anymore. You don't test it on this link or that side. You don't test it from router 3. You're going to lose that question. But if you remember to write that you popped the ACL inbound on that side, you look at your diagram and go, huh, I'm going to configure this NTP. I probably should test coming from router 3 over there, right? So does that part make sense? This stuff right here, this is the stuff, one of the things that you learn in the boot camp. Because you're going to be sitting by guys who have failed once or twice, and they're going to say, you know what? This is kind of how you should approach it. You're going to have an instructor that teaches this stuff, and he's teaching all these things. And yeah, this ACL right here, if you don't know 100% how to do that, don't just eat the points. Because if you do it half-assed and you pop it there, not only are you going to lose the ACL points, 3 points, 2 points, whatever, but you're going to just kill this link. And you're going to just cascade points off of that.
You pretty much not that trying to get that 3 points, you can lose everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Or you can lose 50 points. So.
Yep.
Again, the thing's passable, but you've got to be very careful.
Yep. Or you configure.
I don't want to scare anyone too much.
Yeah, you configure some access list that filters out like a bunch of multicast, and you manage to kill like OSPF or EIGRP. That's always a good one. Yeah. Yeah, they want to read us. I had everything working, then you had to do a virtual link, but the virtual I had the virtual link working. Everything was working. I had like 80, 90 points. I was kicking ass. And then they had a question that said, implement authentication on area 0. And I was like, oh, okay, I do that. Area 0 authentication, right? But what happens to your virtual link?
There's authentication on it too.
Yeah, so the virtual link is in area 0. Yeah. So it blew it. And the virtual link was connecting like two of my best routers, and there was redistribution, and it just killed my whole lab. So to get the 2 points from that question, I lost like 20 points or whatever. You can see it on the review. You can click on that review and look at that OSPF, the number of possible points versus the number of points I actually got. But I'll never make that mistake again. Well, hopefully. Yeah.
You'll
Yep.
find new ones.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap this up? So as I said, I'll be popping up another meetup probably next Wednesday, kind of around the same time. And all it will be is we're going to fire up GNS3. If you're having troubles installing it, we'll help you do it. And we will install Relativity Drive and get you up and running to where you can start any Relativity Drive topology without a problem. And after that, we're going to have other meetups, and we will start with core. We'll do frame relay. Start with frame relay. Then we'll do like RIP, EIGRP. We'll just kind of walk through it. The only one that we can't really do is switching. So you'll have to do this backwards. You'll come back to switching with the real rack or your own rack. Any other questions? And how many of you have already purchased INE's stuff? Or maybe a good question. How many of you have not purchased INE's stuff? Okay, so for those of you guys who have not purchased it, you got basically 2 weeks, because next week is just doing Relativity Drive, and the week after that is when we'll actually start doing labs. So you got 2 weeks. No worries. And you don't need to purchase all the workbooks. Just get workbook 1 for now. But if you have a little bit extra money, you just want to double down, or throw in all your chips for the bundle, then go ahead and do that. But you don't necessarily need to. Because honestly, a lot of people buy the whole bundle, workbooks 1 through 4, and they only do workbooks 1 and 2. They might open workbook 3 2 times, but if you read the vast majority of the people who pass, a lot of them don't really do 3 and 4. They just do 1 and 2. Okay, and yes, Paul's giving you good advice. Do the monthly membership, do the videos, and then you can get the workbook add-on. So $300. It's a very steep discount. All right, so this one has been recorded. If you came late, no big deal. I'm going to be rendering this and popping it up in wonderful HD. It'll probably take 2 or 3 hours, but just go on YouTube and just keep a lookout in your email for the meetup invitation, and I will see you next week. And then I'm going to log off, but Paul's going to be here, so if you want to work with Paul, he's more than happy to help you out. But I'm going to log off, and I'm going to see you guys actually tomorrow if you guys attend the contractor meetup.